Okay, so you know how everyone always talks about those like crazy election scenarios, like where it all comes down to one state, one county.
Right.
You're on the edge of your seat biting your nails.
Yeah.
Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because this deep dive is about to get real.
Oh, boy.
We're talking Georgia election certification, and this YouTube video you sent is no joke.
No, it's a big deal. And what we're seeing in Georgia right now,
Yeah.
this is exactly how something that seems like routine election stuff,
Right.
it becomes a huge flashpoint.
It's like all eyes on Georgia.
Yeah, and it's not just some abstract legal mumbo jumbo either.
Right, right.
It gets real when you realize how much power these local election boards actually have.
They're the ones like making the calls, right?
Yeah, they certify the vote counts, and in Georgia, the new state election board, they've got a 3-2 majority from one party.
Oh, I see where this is going.
And they passed these 2 new rules, reasonable inquiry and examination.
And I'm guessing those terms aren't exactly crystal clear.
Not at all. In fact, the video was saying they're so vague.
Right.
People are worried they could be used to delay certifying election results.
Oh, wow. So basically throwing the whole election into chaos.
Potentially it's a mess.
And this isn't just a Georgia thing either, right?
No, not at all.
This brings back all those memories of the 2020 election aftermath.
Absolutely. It's like deja vu.
All that uncertainty and chaos.
It's a playbook, and we saw it in Arizona after 2020, too.
Right. Some officials tried to use delays to create doubt.
Exactly, and that's why this case in Georgia is setting off alarm bells.
It's like everyone's worried about a repeat performance.
Yeah, that we might see more attempts to undermine election integrity.
So we've got these new rules, everyone's freaking out, and then we have this Julie Adams situation.
Right. Julie Adams, she's on the Fulton County Election Board.
Right.
And she actually argued that these new rules, the reasonable inquiry and examination stuff,
Yeah.
she says they give her the power to delay certifying election results in Fulton County.
Hold up, wait, so one person on a local board?
You could potentially put the brakes on the entire election.
That's the concern.
Well, it's a lot of power for one person.
It is, and that's why this case is so important.
Right, because if she's using these vague rules
Exactly.
to stall things, even if there's no real evidence of problems, that's a big deal.
It undermines the whole system.
And the video mentioned legal deadlines for certifying election results.
Right.
I'll be honest, I never really thought about it before.
Yeah.
But why are those deadlines so important?
Well, they're not just random dates.
I didn't think so.
They're tied to when those electoral votes are counted at the national level.
Oh, I see.
So any delay in Georgia, especially in a close election,
Right.
it could snowball into this huge mess.
Like a domino effect?
Exactly. Throwing off the entire national election certification process.
Wow. So it's not just about Georgia?
Nope.
It could impact the whole country.
Absolutely. Imagine a state's electoral votes being questioned because of delays at the county level.
That's a constitutional crisis waiting to happen. It would be a nightmare.
Okay, so we have Julie Adams basically saying, I can hit the brakes if I want to.
Right.
But then Judge McBurney steps in.
And this is where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Judge McBurney's ruling is huge for a couple of reasons.
Lay on me.
First, he told Julie Adams that board members, yeah, they have some leeway.
Okay.
But when it comes to certifying election results, it's ministerial.
Ministerial. Okay, yeah, I'm not a lawyer, right?
Right.
What does that even mean in this context?
Basically, it means they have a legal duty to certify those results.
Okay.
As long as everything's legal and above board,
Gotcha.
they can't just refuse based on gut feelings or suspicions.
So no stalling tactics allowed.
Exactly. Judge McBurney shut that down.
Good to know.
And he didn't stop there. He specifically talked about delays.
Oh, really?
He said just because you don't have all the info from election staff right on time, that's not an excuse to refuse to certify election results.
So even if Julie Adams thinks something's fishy, she can't just hit the brakes and stop the whole thing?
That's the key takeaway here.
Okay, so what did he say exactly?
The judge, he made a clear distinction between abstaining and actually obstructing things.
I see.
A board member can choose not to vote on the certification if they've got concerns, but they can't actually block the whole process if a majority votes to go ahead.
So it's more like a speed bump than a roadblock.
Exactly. The certification can keep moving forward.
Okay.
Even without everyone on board, as long as there's that majority vote.
That makes sense. It's like a safeguard.
Right. You don't want one person holding everything up.
This whole thing, it really makes you think about the power of a judge's ruling.
Oh, absolutely. And the video you shared. They made a big deal about Judge McBurney's history.
Like his background.
Yeah, they called him a profile in courage.
Wow. A profile in courage?
Yeah, because he's known for standing up to pressure. Remember that whole thing with abortion rights?
Oh, right.
Oh.
He went against the Georgia Supreme Court on that, didn't he?
He's not afraid of a little controversy.
It's kind of refreshing, actually.
Right.
Someone in power who sticks to their principles.
Exactly, and that's important context here.
Okay.
Judge McBurney, he makes his rulings based on the law.
Right.
Even if it ruffles some feathers.
He's not playing politics.
Nope.
So we've got this judge known for his integrity.
Right.
And he's saying you can't use these vague rules to mess with the election.
Exactly. He drew a line in the sand.
But even with that, this Julie Adams situation, it feels like just one piece of a much bigger puzzle.
You're hitting on something important. This isn't just a Georgia thing.
Right, it's bigger than that.
This case, it highlights a much bigger problem that's been brewing for a while.
Okay, I'm listening.
The increasing politicization of election administration.
Across the country.
Everywhere. It's a nationwide issue.
So how do election boards factor into all of this?
Well, historically, they've been in charge of the nuts and bolts.
Okay, the basics.
Right. Registering voters, setting up polling places, counting the ballots.
Certifying the results.
Exactly. They're supposed to be neutral.
Like referees.
Exactly. Administrative bodies that are fair and impartial.
But it sounds like that's not always the case anymore.
Unfortunately, no. In recent years, election boards have become like battlegrounds.
Oh, wow.
In this fight for political power.
Because if the people running the elections, they're biased.
Right.
That undermines the whole idea of a fair election.
Exactly. And that's why cases like this one in Georgia are so worrying.
It's like a canary in a coal mine.
It exposes how vulnerable our elections are to manipulation.
And it shows we need strong safeguards.
Absolutely, to prevent abuses of power.
Okay, so what happens next?
Well, the video mentioned this isn't over.
Right, it's not over.
The Julie Adams case, they can still appeal the ruling.
Really?
And it could go all the way up to the Georgia Supreme Court.
Another layer of complexity, wow.
Right, and to make things even more interesting...
Oh, there's more.
There's another case with Judge McBurney. This one's about whether these new election rules, if they can even be used in this election.
So we're on a time crunch here.
We are. It's a race against the clock.
It's like we're watching a legal drama unfold in real time.
And the stakes are incredibly high. We could even see emergency applications,
wow,
trying to get ruling before the election even happens.
So even if Judge McBurney makes a decision,
right,
it could all change if a higher court gets involved.
Exactly. It's true, and it shows how important this all is.
Right.
Because sometimes I think people forget these legal battles, they have a real impact on our lives.
I get it. I mean, I think it's easy to tune out when you hear election law.
Yeah.
It doesn't exactly sound exciting.
Well, it doesn't sound like a thriller.
Right. But this deep dive has really shown me how crucial these details are.
It's not just technicalities.
Right.
It's about the foundation of our democracy.
It's about how our elections work.
Exactly how votes are counted, how results are certified.
Making sure it's all fair.
That's what determines if our elections are free and fair, if they actually represent the people.
And right now it feels like that's being tested.
It is. It's being challenged for sure.
So if we had to sum this up for our listeners, what's the key takeaway here?
I think the biggest thing is our democracy. It's not like a spectator sport. We can't just assume everything will be fine.
Right. We can't be passive.
We have to be informed, engaged. We have to hold those in power accountable.
For keeping our elections fair.
Exactly. For protecting the integrity of our elections.
We started this deep dive with that idea of a super close election.
Right down to the wire.
Where one county in Georgia could decide everything.
Yeah.
And now, after learning all this, it doesn't seem so crazy, does it?
Not at all.
This deep dive showed us that the future of our elections, it could really depend on these legal battles, these decisions that might seem small.
Yeah.
But they have huge consequences for all of us.
That's the truth.
It's a lot to process, but as always, thanks for diving deep with us.